Hi, I'm Don Buckley, and I'm a freelance professor at Teachers College Columbia. I'm also the co-founder of Tools at Schools, which is a not-for-profit org that co-design products with students that we bring to market. And I'm also the co-founder of Rewind Was Set Forward, which is an experience that you can go through to help you reimagine learning spaces. But what all those three things have in common is design thinking. What is design thinking? It's become very popular in the education circle in the last 10 years or so, and there's a lot of skepticism about it. But essentially, the credit for where it comes from is the D School in Stanford, started by David Kelly, who's also the founder of IDEO. But if we were to define design thinking, it's essentially teaching the creative problem-solving process, how to define problems. When you write that problem statement, how do you come up with ideas, which might be possible solutions, or the ideate? With those ideas, you push out a rapid prototype really quickly so that you start the iteration cycle, the feedback loop, and that should help improve and bring you to a solution in the end, or many solutions. Where design thinking is important is that it's really good to solve complex or ambiguous problems. If we have simple or complicated problems, bottom line is AI will solve those. And so what we need to be teaching students are more, how do you solve complex problems or ambiguous problems? So a big part of the design thinking methodology, you can learn methods, but a lot of it has to do with a mindset, being comfortable with ambiguity, having a growth mindset, having creative confidence, and a big part of it is the empathy piece, an empathy mindset, and how do you have that? So design thinking is methods that you can learn, but it's also behavioral in the mindset, actually how it happens. So let's look at an example from Tools at Schools. The first project we did was with a bunch of 8th graders, and we thought, well, if you wanted to reimagine a desk space and locker, who else would you ask but an 8th grader, because they're the users of that, and they instantly would have a lot of great insights into coming up with new ideas that would make a better desk chair locker. So over the period of 6 months, we worked with 44 8th graders, Renat and I, my partner, and ended up with prototypes of desk chairs and lockers that we had built out in North Carolina. Those desk chairs and lockers ended up at the ICFF, which is the International Contemporary Furniture Fair, where they won a Best Design Award prize, and this was the first time that high schoolers or even middle schoolers had ever won this prize. Usually it was reserved for colleges. And then based on that, we had a show that ran for a month at the Museum for Art and Design, which was the Future Classroom. And in there we had the desk chairs and lockers, and the students took people through as to why they designed the chair this way, the locker this way, or the table. So interestingly, initially when we started this project, the most popular thing to solve for was the chair. All the students wanted to solve to design a new chair, but because we wanted to span the other elements in that ecosystem, we had the locker and desk. And interestingly, the most innovative designs came out of the locker, which no student wanted to do, which is sort of interesting. But some of the things that the things that came out with the locker, if we'll pick that, was that lockers were smelly, so they compartmentalized the locker so that you could, at the end, at the bottom part of the locker, you could kick it and it opened and you could throw your gym clothes in there. And that was perforated to let the smell out. They also included something really interesting like a letter box where you could put in paper notes for people to tell them, to say things about them. And that was really interesting that the students wanted to communicate this way than in a digital format. Said a lot and why they wanted to do this. One really interesting insight that came out in the chair that they designed is that they had included a fidget factor. So they like to move and they didn't want to be stuck in seats, so the chair included a fidget factor that allowed the student to move and shake off excess energy. What was interesting about the desks is that each desk was customized for a different content area: a chemistry desk, an art desk, a history desk. And you could move parts in and out of that depending on the content area that you were learning at that point in time in the class. So that gives you a sense of what Tools at Schools is. Essentially, when students go through a project that we orchestrate, what they are learning are what are really current skills, but design thinking skills. And that may not necessarily be designing for something to look good in form, but actually how do you solve problems? How do you define problems? And how do you come up with ideas to get many solutions? Because complex problems, often there's multiple solutions, not one.